Hello guys, this is Tanzim Redwan, and in this video we are going to be reviewing muscles and tissues. Just before starting, I want to state that this is a presentation which is a part of the Bio in Med Bootcamp, as well as being organized by Yoast Team Advisors. Other than that, this is going to serve as an introduction to muscular tissues designed for aspiring doctors, of course, because this whole slide is a part of the Bio in Med Bootcamp. So, other than that, if you guys have any questions, please drop down in the comments below. Just to note that this video is not part of the class, but rather was recorded later as there were some technical issues for which we cannot share the video of the Zoom class. So, without further ado, let's get started. And before we do, I just want to state that I myself, Tanzim Redwan, a two-time BDBO nationalist, and I'm also the CEO and founder of biopie.ai, and well, that's all about me. And those who are attending the BioInmed Bootcamp, please do note that there's supplementary material, and you guys need to collect it from Vanessa or any of the founders, and you'll get in the WhatsApp. So yeah, let's get started. So in this video, you're gonna learn about muscle structures, movements, and their functions. And other than that, you're also going to learn the major muscles found in the human body, and also the muscle injuries and disorders that are commonly found. Of course, you need to know that because this is a bio in med, meaning medicine boot camp. So as a doctor, that's the things you need to be being concerned about. And in supplementary material that I'm going to provide, you guys will get some more information, as well as get some research scopes and clinical scopes after studying this, and what you can do with knowledge in physiology. So let's get started. So let's start. So at first, we need to know that what really are muscles. So muscles are soft tissues found in animals that produce motion by contraction or relaxation. So that's that. And basically there's three types of muscles. So number one is cardiac, number two smooth, number three skeletal. So the word cardia comes from literally the word heart. So when we're talking about cardial muscle tissue, we're talking about heart muscles tissue. So the reason is that this type of muscle tissue, is only and exclusively found in the heart. And to know that this is an involuntary muscle, meaning that it operates and relaxes and contracts without any conscious commands or anything. Then we have our smooth muscle tissue, which is also involuntary and is found in the lining of the uterus, as well as gallbladders and such. It is normally used as a lining in many places, and well, that's that. Then we have skeletal tissue. Skeletal tissue is the one that you'll see right over here. You guys see that these two bodybuilders, they have those muscles and everything. All these 640 muscles that we can see, feel, and flex, all of these are part of the skeletal muscle system. So yeah, let's get to the next slide. Now, before we get further into muscle anatomy, I want all the students to take a look at this little definitions so that they can understand better on about what's in the figure and everything. So you can see that in muscle fibers, muscle fibers are the basic unit of a muscle. Okay, so it's a single cell which has multiple nucleuses. It has a fancy medical term which is called multinucleated, but multiple nucleus in a single cell, yeah, that's it. And then we have the fascicle, which is a bundle of muscle fibers. So you could say that it's a collective group of many muscle fibers. Then we have three mysiums right over here on the right. You guys can see, I hope. Number one is the epimysium, then the perimysium, and then the endomysium. So, the words epi, peri, and endo are most probably, from what I know, are Greek words. And the word epi, like for example, epidermis and all that epis, it means the outermost layer. Whereas peri, which is normally in between or around, and normally when you see anywhere the word endo, it definitely means that it's the innermost layer. So you guys can see the definitions, like perimycium, which is the outermost layer of connective tissue surrounding the entire muscle, and the perimycium, which is the connective tissue surrounding each fascicle. Right over here, we can see this bad boy, and then we have endomycium, which is the connective tissue surrounding each muscle fiber, like this one. So, a fun fact is that muscles are like so complex, and each muscle has their own um, blood vessels that are connected to bones, and they're so complex that we can actually count them as an organ because that's that. And like they're pretty complex, they work for a specific purpose, so they pretty much fit in the definition of an organ. And yeah, so right over here we can see the muscle layers, which are we can, at first I want to note that let's just see the muscle bundle or the part the epimysium right over here, and we can see the perimysium over here, and we can see the endomysium right over here. And other than that, this the muscle bundle is a collective of the fascicle, and the fascicle is a collective of um, the muscle fibers. And in fact, we're gonna go to the next slide. The next slide has what we zoom further into each muscle fiber and what each muscle fiber is made up of, actin and myosin. We'll get that in a sec. Other than that, we can see that this is a skeletal muscle. The proof being that it's attached to a bone via a tendon. And other than that, we can see some blood vessels over here, which is why I said that all of these tissues and everything is the reason that we can classify them as an organ. Then now we are zooming in into the muscle fiber. So this muscle fiber over here has so many things like sarcomeres, sarcoplasmic reticulum, but as this is only an introduction to muscles and physiology, so we're not gonna go into detail into all that things, but we're gonna go to the basic things. First of all, um, this could have been easier to see if this was a written drawn diagram, but it's not. It's animated, so the thick myofilaments, myosin and actin is like kind of hard to differentiate, but these are the things that you do need to know. So myosins are the thicker ones, thicker microfilaments, which are protein myofilaments, protein strands, and we have thin myofilaments, which is the we can remember it by actin is thin. Yeah, I collected that from Amoeba Sisters or anything. Other than that, these are the two most important parts in this whole diagram, and we have actin and myosin, the two protein strands, which you will know further on when you study um, into deep physiology or muscle science and all that, and you're gonna need it when you're gonna learn about the sliding model. Other than that, we can see a myofibrils, sarcomeres, and there's mitochondrion. Um, Other than that, I hope that I'm not gonna go into specifics of this one because of two reasons, as this is an introductory video, as well as the reason being things like mitochondria and all the basic things. Blood vessels, blood cells have been covered in the first class by Alice Fu. So next, now let's get into what cardiac muscles are. So as I've mentioned earlier, the word cardia literally means heart. So as we can see, we have only one example to give, and that's from the heart. And we can see that these have three characteristics just by looking at the figure. Right over here, we can see that these have some, vertical lines. These are intercalated discs. I'm going to get into that later. Other than that, we can see a lot of stripes. These stripes are known as striations. Okay, Um, Other than that, we can see that there are multiple nuclei. We cannot see these ones. I don't know. The figure is not that good, but well, that's that. They are branched, which we can see as well. So, what I said earlier that these have intercalated discs, right? So these intercalated discs serve as um, uh, it facilitates synchronized contractions. So your heart doesn't have irregular beats and all that because it's required for blood circulation and all that. Other than that, we all know that hearts are involuntary, meaning they're controlled by the autonomic nervous system, and various hormones. Which if something goes wrong, you get an irregular heartbeat, heart diseases, heart problems, and all that. And other than that, we also know that it's a basic thing that the heart blood pumps blood throughout the body by contracting the heart. And of course, when we're talking about the heart and all that, of course, it's exclusively found in the walls of the heart. So yeah. Next, we have skeletal muscles. So, like, if we saw, gyms and all the 640 muscles, you can flex and, all that, just abs and deltoids, pecs, all of those are skeletal muscles. Um, they serve as a very important part in the body in movements and all that. But we're gonna get into that a bit later. At first, let's look at the figure. Let's go. The figure, we can see that there are multiple layers, and in these multiple layers, there are multiple nuclei as well, which means these are multinucleated. Let's go. Other than that, we can see that there are also various lines. This time, as these are vertical, please do not misunderstand them as intercalated discs. No, these actually are just striations or simply stripes. So, in terms of structure, we can see that these are pretty long, elongated, and these are cylindrical, and they're striated, meaning they have stripes. Other than that, we have already seen earlier that these are connected with bones, via tendons, and oops, and that's that. Other than that, these muscles are under voluntary control. Out of the three muscle types, these are the only ones that are, and which is the reason we can contract, flex, and all that. Meaning that these movements are consciously regulated by the nervous system. All right. Next, we have function. So, skeletal muscles, as I said, play a crucial role in body movements, and other than that, it not only out of inactive actions like maintaining posture and giving your body flexibility so that you can stand fixed in one place without you know breaking down and all that. It serves as a good support. It's like the you know bricks supporting the metal rods of a building, the rods being the skeleton and muscles being the bricks. Cool analogy. Other than that, examples would be skeletal muscles include the biceps, quadriceps, and the pectoralis, the pecs. All right. I mean, I hate these words, but anyways, let's just get further. So now we have smooth muscles. Smooth muscles are muscle fibers which are non-striated right over here. The figure is a bit, I don't know what to say, but uh, these don't have any stripes, uh, any intercalated discs, or any of that crap. It's literally smooth, like goddamn smooth, and contain a single nucleus. All right. Other than that, they're involuntary, as said earlier, and they're controlled by hormones and all that. Like for example, how the uterus, aids in giving birth, or the rec- rectus. Sorry, um, the urinary system and all that. How it pushes through everything, and we don't need to do anything. So it's we are doing it unconsciously, as it's controlled by the autonomic nervous system and various local factors. And other than that, the when we're talking about the functions, It's pretty simple. It moves substances through the body's internal passageways, regulates diameter of blood, so blood pressure, and controls contraction of organs such as the stomach, intestines, and bladder. Oh yeah, that's the thing I was talking about, intestines. So it's a crucial part when you're trying to excrete waste excretory products. um, it's a crucial part because intestines, absorb the moisture and push the excretory material outside. And being it consciously would be, unpleasant. So, yeah. So before we get to further on how muscles work, contract, I just want to give an overview of how they work. So there are mainly four steps, simple steps: excitement. We think of something, motor neurons send the signals, and it happens, be it the autonomic nervous system or doing it consciously by our brain. And other than that, then the action happens, meaning muscles contract upon receiving the signals. Then the contraction of the muscles applies force on the bone, which is why we can see movement. So action and movement are two different parts. And then when it's done, relaxation following the contraction, which is the step that allows the muscles to prepare for the next action. So yeah, now we have muscle functions. So there are really 6 steps, a lot of stuff to talk about, but we don't have that much time. You guys can read it out, but the most important, I'm just gonna give an overview. Movement, we know it, duh. Posture and stability, um, like I talked about, it aids in sustaining posture and stabilizing joints. And then we're talking about digestion, which is we're talking about smooth muscle and digestive tract facilitate the movement of the food. The digestive system, like I've talked about, it pushes the excretory material outside. And we have heat production. Um, thermostasis, most probably, if I'm correct. So that happens. We're going to go into that further, but this is a good point, which I've not talked about. Respiration and heat production, both really. So because of respiration, we are like when muscles work, they produce an action, they need energy. How do they do that? So there's a currency, nothing's free in this world, alright? So even muscles need currency. And that's a molecular compound called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. So it really works that they use up one ATP, meaning they just break out one phosphate in the form of an ion, turning the ATP into ADP plus P, meaning phosphate. So, mono, di, tri. Mono means one, di means two, tri means three. So when we're breaking down one of the phosphate ions, we have two left. So it's ADP, adenosine diphosphate, or adenosine 2-phosphate, rather than, which is what it was, an adenosine triphosphate, meaning it was the latter form adenosine 3-phosphate. So you get it? So when it stores energy in the form of ATP. And when any organ, really, not only muscles, want to use it, they use it as in the form of ATP, adenosine triphosphate. I believe that Alice Fu in her first week have explained it even better, but this is just a reminder. So these two are similar because respiration requires this process, and by respiration, we're not only talking about the lungs, but rather the whole body and how they're using up energy. And when they use up energy, of course, heat is produced. So that's how muscles help. Pretty indirect, but it works. In circulation, we're just gonna ignore that because it's pretty obvious. Contraction and relaxation. So muscle contraction and relaxation are essential processes that allow movement, maintain posture, and support various bodily functions. And contraction occurs when muscle fibers generate force through interactions between actin-myosin filaments triggered by calcium ion. So this is not about ATP or ADP. We're talking about right now model sliding model. So we're not going to get into that this class or this session in any way, but Knowing won't hurt. Relaxation, on the other hand, occurs when the muscle fibers return to their original state, allowing for another cycle of contraction, like we said right over here. So, um, yeah, so we have this bad boy. Both contraction and relaxation require energy, let's go, mainly in the form of ATP, which fuels these processes. Then now we have the neuromuscular junction, and oh, it's right over here. I just want to remind that at the end of this class, I mean in this video, you're gonna have a quiz out of 10 questions. You guys need to answer that, and when you do, well, that's that, and send it to me via WhatsApp. So that's that, and the neuromuscular junction, you're gonna need it further on when you're studying, physiology and all that crap, because it's mandatory. So it is the NMG is where nerve cells meet muscle fibers, allowing for the transfer of signals that initiate muscle contraction. When muscle potential or electric action potentials or electrical signal reaches the end of a motor neuron, the neuron that sends commands, and it causes the release of acetyl-CoA or acetylcholine, whatever, neurotransmitter into the synaptic cleft right over here. And acetylcholine binds to receptors on the muscle fiber surface, triggering an influx of ions that generate an action potential, or again, any electrical signal, fingers crossed, in the muscle fiber, which leads to the release of calcium ions and initiating the contraction process. So there are two rules basically. When we release calcium ions, the muscles are going to change shape, and when muscles change shape, calcium ions are going to be released. So that's that. It's kind of like algebra, where you have two parts of an equation, and you multiply or divide anything by 2 or into 2, which differentiates things. Then we have contraction types. I'm gonna go through that like in light speed, gold speed. Let's just do it. Muscle speeds can contract in different ways to perform various movements. There are basically two types of contraction: isometric and isotonic. Isotonic is when muscle length changes while generating force, and isometric is when they do not change length. Okay, and isometric has two types: concentric contraction and eccentric contraction. All right. An example would be, lifting or lowering your weight or moving a load. There's been work being done and all that. Whereas isometric is when we're talking about, stabilizing joints. We're talking about stability, just standing in a fixed place and all that. We have one class, an exception maybe, but it's in this anyway, which is twitch, which is a quick single contraction and relaxation cycle of a muscle fiber, often in response to a brief stimulus. Pretty simple, we've all seen it, we all know what it means. Let's go to the next part. Other than that, we're gonna get into the next part of the part, which is the major muscles in the human body. So let's get started, shall we? At first, you can see that there are mainly three types of muscles that we know, but we have also known through this discussion that there are other two, according to their use types and all that, which is involuntary and voluntary. You guys can read it if you want, but I guess you guys already know what you know from this discussion and all that. So let's proceed. Now, we can see that there are three types of skeletal muscle. So you might want to know that, because we're going to be talking about the major skeletal muscles, and which are actually the major ones that you need in med and most injuries and all that. But we are ignoring some other major muscles that we talk about. For example, the smallest muscle in the human body is the stapedius muscle and all that. But we have no other choice. We cannot cover everything. But I hope that talking about the skeletal muscles and all that would be enough for bio and math students, at least for an introductory class. Yeah. So now let's look at the main muscles in the body. So and first you can see deltoids. So the deltoids are called deltoids for a funny reason, and that's the Greek word delta. It's actually a triangle, and the deltoid in reality in real life, you can see that deltoids are really just an upside down triangle, which is why I think it's pretty befitting that they're called you know, deltoids. And that's the reason you can remember, like, how you can identify deltoids and all that. And the deltoid, it's reduction for the responsible for the adduction of the shoulder, just literally meaning that it moves the arm out and away from the body. Okay, then we have the pecs. Man, let's go. Pectoralis major. So the pectoralis major is responsible for the adduction, again, moving the arm towards or away from the body. Sorry, I mean towards the body, and shoulder horizontal flexion. Pretty fancy word. Moving the arm forwards or in front of the body. Then we have the biceps, man. Biceps are responsible for flexing the elbow, like we have talked about, how they work and all the four functions. So that's how they do work. And flexing is like that means it's more useful than you think. And yeah, bending the arm. Then we have the external obliques, part of the abs. Let's go. So the external obliques are responsible for the trunk rotation, moving the torso and all that. So, yeah. Then we have the hip flexors. Okay, pretty nice. I haven't even seen this one yet. The hip flexors are responsible for hip flexion, or moving the knee up to the chest and all that. All of these, all of these muscles that we've talked about right now, external obliques, hip flexors, biceps, and pectoralis major, uh, deltoids, all of these are actually classified or termed major, at least by me, because of the reason that how functional or significant they are basis of talking, or if you know these ones you're going to be quite familiar with other ones you can study in detail, but as this session is just an introductory class, yeah, I think it's enough. We are talking about now the quadriceps. Okay, this is a significant one. So the quadriceps are responsible for extending the knee. It's pretty powerful, and yeah, pretty strong muscles, man. Then we have the tibialis anterior. The tibialis anterior is responsible for the dorsiflexion. I know it's fancy, real fancy, of the ankle, which just means moving the toes up in the direction of the shin. The shin being the downer part, just 90-degree opposite. 60 or 45-degree opposite of your toes. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm sorry. Just contact me on WhatsApp. Then we have the triceps. Okay, so we're talking about biceps and triceps being the agonists and antagonists. We're going to go into that a bit later. So triceps are responsible for extending the elbow or straightening it, which is the opposite of the biceps. We have the latissimus dorsi. What a name, man. Latissimus dorsi are responsible for shoulder adduction, which means moving the arm towards the body. Then we have the gluteus maximus, my personal favorite. Just phenomenal, just man. The gluteus maximus is responsible for the hip extension or moving the leg backwards. Then we have the hamstring muscle, pretty common injury found in football players and all that. So these are responsible for flexing the knee or bending the knee. Then we have the gastrocnemius, quite often called the calf muscles, if I'm not wrong. The gastrocnemius, how do you even spell that? I don't know. The gastrocnemius is responsible for the plantar flexion of the ankle, pointing the toes downwards. So right over here, now we're going to be talking about, this. Oh man, sorry. So yeah, we're talking about isotonic, isometric, which we have talked about a bit earlier. And wait, I wasn't moving. Okay, yeah. So we have already talked about concentric and eccentric contraction, and there should be twitch. Okay, there isn't, but we know about this, so we're gonna skip this slide. Now we have this one, antagonist pairs. Right over here, we can see that antagonist pairs are pairs of muscles which work together by one contracting or shortening, you know what contracting is, and one relaxing, lengthening. So, of I don't know if you guys know it, but us muscles are meant to contract. I mean, this is as you can see the red part. When the knee is straight, this is shortened, which is why it's flexed or whatever you might call it. This is the normal state of the muscle, and when let's say it's thin because of the when it's put backwards, it is relaxed in a way, but it is also being stretched. So you have to understand that yes, it's being under stress. No matter what you do, you're wasting energy. The contracting muscle is an agonist, and the relaxing muscle is an antagonist, which we can see over here. Time for the one and only all about human body quiz, which is quite hypocritical because there's nothing about like all about human muscles or all that, because they're like 6 or 9 questions and most of them are from the last slide, which is major muscles. So yeah, it's kind of disappointing, but you get the point. So this is gonna like answer the following questions, which means this is not an assignment, and you guys you don't need to send it to me, but if you do, I'll appreciate it. And yeah, but you've missed the fun. The 3 main muscle types in the body are A, B, or C, or D. So I'm not gonna like answer them. The answers are gonna be at the last things. You guys can pause and write it up in a page or anything, so you can send it later on. And yeah, then we have the muscle that pumps blood through your body is A, skeletal, B, smooth, C, Valentine, D, cardiac. Okay, number 3. Which muscles help move your shoulders? Which one is it? A, B, C, or D? Which type of muscle is found in your digestive system? Rectus abdominis. Yeah, maybe that. I don't know. Which connects bones and muscles together? We have reviewed this in the class, so it's pretty obvious. Yeah, 2 times. First slide. Yeah, next one. Some of your biggest and most powerful muscles are where? I don't think that I've reviewed this in this class, so I don't expect you guys to answer it, but if you can, you're a genius. So you deserve my compliments. Send it to me on WhatsApp. I'll give you $1. I don't know. So next, number 7. Which muscles are found in the front of your thighs? Pretty obvious, and I hope you guys can answer it. Then, when you make a muscle with your arms, you are flexing your... What is it? What is it? Pretty obvious. And this are the answers. You guys can pause it. That's that. Then we're going to the last part of the video. I have some celebration, like previous celebration, and there's a reason for that, because like if you're awake till this part of the video, this means you deserve a praise. I mean, no joke. And yeah, these are the last 2 slides, and you've kind of reached the end of the session, and that you're still watching this, it's a big deal. So let's get started. Yeah, muscle injuries, which I've promised, and there will be more details on the supplementary file that I've shared in WhatsApp. You guys can find it, as this is a video and you guys have missed the class, obviously. So yeah, muscle injuries are very common in daily activities and sports, like I've said, football, basketball, all that, often resulting from overstretching or sudden force. Key types of muscle injuries include strains, sprains, or bruises, or contusions, whatever. So strains occur when muscle fibers are stretched or torn, and which are often due to overexertion or improper use. Similarly, sprains are when you tearing of ligaments, which is pretty serious. Ligament injuries are much more serious than any, strains. And yeah, other than that, it causes extreme pain, swelling, and makes your movement quite limited. And then we have contusions, which result from a direct blow to the muscle, which causes internal bleeding, and that's bad. Like color causes discoloration of the skin, from which you can understand that there has been internal bleeding, and the skin on the place swells quite commonly. And well, that's that. You guys have said the supplementary material that I've shared has much more in details, as well as some research or clinical scopes that you guys can exploit. Then we have muscle disorders, man. So you guys may be confused. Wait, what? I guess this is the muscle, but why do we have, the autonomic nervous system? So let me tell you. You see, muscle disorders affect muscle function, and they are genetic or acquired. Same thing. So some significant. I mean, there are only two, and I think that for an introductory bio and med class, these two are the most significant ones, and you've most probably seen them, especially myasthenia gravis and all that. And yeah, so at first let's start with muscular dystrophy, which is a group of genetic disorders characterized by progressive weakness and degeneration of skeletal muscles. I mean, it looks pretty bad. There are no figures in this place, but when you're going to see in the supplementary material, there are some figures, and as well as pretty useful information that you guys can exploit and learn. So yeah, muscular dystrophy, and it's caused by mutations, which means genetic problems, Mendel's theory and all that, affecting muscle proteins, leading to impaired muscle strength over time. Then we have myasthenia gravis. So it's an autoimmune disorder where the immune system attacks acetyl-CoA receptors, the NMG, neuromuscular junction, which we've talked about earlier in slide number 1. So impairing communication between nerves and muscles. So in very interesting case studies, you can see that a person's face, I know it's pretty misleading, but what I've meant with these two is that, an interesting case study I've seen that half commonly when people are affected by myasthenia gravis, half of their face is paralyzed or such. So it's not always the case, but when it is, it is. Duh. But yeah, and other than that, it leads to muscle weakness, particularly in the eyes, face, or the limbs. Well, you've reached a conclusion. I mean, it's just phenomenal that you're still here, and yeah. So now that you are, I'm gonna give you another treat other than that, and the fact that you have the, what should I say, supplementary material and all that. You can, you're gonna get it, all that. It's pretty easy, and you can always contact me on WhatsApp. But if you reach this part of the conclusion, take a screenshot right now and then send it to me on WhatsApp. When you do, and just tell that, hey, Tanzim, I watched your video, and you said that if you send me this screenshot and ask for the cold email template, you're going to give me your successful cold email template from which you've gained like 5 or 3 research opportunities. I've sent this to like a lot of people. I'm going to give you mine when I used to give my O levels, and it's pretty useful. It works. It works quite good, and yeah, that's a treat from me to you guys that you've reached the end of the video. Other than that, I appreciate it. You can get the cold email template. I have it. Just contact me on WhatsApp. I'm gonna share it with you. Other than that, thanks for watching. You guys are phenomenal. Keep it up, and see you in the mentorship session. Ta-da.